Do you ever feel torn between keeping your business all under one brand or separating it into two? This might come up especially if you're serving two different types of audiences or have two different types of really distinct products, or if you feel like you're trying to brand two different types of vibes. In today's video, we're going to talk all about how to figure out whether you should keep them together or separate them and what is best for your unique business. If we haven't met yet, my name is Isabel, and on this channel, we talk all about embracing your weird in order to build a better brand, business, and life. I recently got a question from a client who's a business owner. She owns a laser engraving and UV printing company, and her business has two really distinct sides. On one hand, she does custom orders for corporate offices, events, that kind of thing. And on the other hand, she does designs that you just buy as they are. But because of her personality, a lot of those designs are funny, political, could be considered inappropriate, which doesn't really match with the corporate vibe of the custom offers. So her question to me was, what do I do? Do I keep these businesses together, or should I have two separate social media accounts, two separate websites, two separate everything? If you're in a similar situation, stick around because we're going to break down exactly how you make that decision. There are definitely upsides to keeping things together. First thing, easier brand management. Obviously, if you have two separate Instagrams, Facebooks, TikToks, YouTube, whatever social media channel you're using, two separate websites, there's a lot more to manage. So if you're a small team, there could be an upside to keeping things together just because it is easier, right? There's also a cross-pollination of audiences and cross-pollination opportunities. Someone who buys one of her politically inappropriate, let's say, products could also work at a corporate office and think of her when the office needs to do a custom order. So that is also a benefit to keeping them together under one brand. The second thing is that she would have a unified identity. She doesn't have to keep part of herself and her personality hidden, in this case because there is a lot of her personality as she is partly the face of the brand, and she can show all of herself, show all of her personality, and that adds layers and depth to brands, which people really appreciate. People really appreciate the humanity and the humans behind the brand. So flat brands tend to not have as much interest from people. However, there are also some cons to consider in keeping them together. So what are the cons of keeping this business as one single entity? First of all, two completely different personalities. There's two very different types of customers. There's the playful consumers and there's the more professional business-oriented customer. And they will respond differently to the same piece of content, which means that your marketing efforts might be wasted if you're trying to attack both of them from the same post because they will react differently. So you have three options. You can try to get the playful customer, but then this customer might not respond to that post. You can try to get to the professional business-oriented customer, but then the playful customer might find that post boring. Or you can try to mix and create like a more neutral post, but then you run the risk of either both of them will respond or neither of them will engage with the post, right? So it's hard to manage a brand that has two very distinct audiences. The second thing is your freedom to be more authentic with the playful side of the brand is in danger with the more corporate professional side of the brand. When we are doing products that are humor, that are political, that talk about activism issues, for example, like there's a lot that could go on. There is always going to be people who don't appreciate that and will not do business with you, whatever your beliefs are, like on one side or the other. This corporate side might have, or this custom design side might have issues with the playful, political, humor-filled side of your business, which might stop them from doing the custom orders. Here's the thing though, you have to decide what is more important to you, being your complete full self or being your complete full self in the playful side of the business and keeping this other thing separate. And the last thing is the clarity in marketing. Now, again, I talked about this before when I talked about the two different audiences, but the most important thing in marketing is to be clear and make sure that people know exactly what they're getting. And having separate websites and social profiles can help your two businesses be very clear on what they offer, who they're for, and that makes people buy more, right? Mixed messaging can mean the difference between someone buying in the moment and deciding to think about it and you falling into 100 tabs that are open and they eventually forget about you, or in fact, just them not really getting what you're about and just clicking off and not purchasing. Mixed messaging kills businesses. So in this case, separating might be the best choice. If you're enjoying this video, I'd love to know, is there a question that you'd love for me to make a video about? Is there a question you have, something you'd like for me to talk about? Leave it in the comments below and I'll add it to my video list. Okay, so how do you decide? Ask yourself these three questions. Question number one, do you see this business as two separate arms of a single business, or do you see it as two separate businesses altogether? Now, here's the thing. Sometimes, even with political humor-filled brands that have a more serious side, you might be able to see it as a unified brand in your head and then keep it together. And you're okay with that. You're okay with the customer base that you're losing that doesn't agree with the political humor side of it, because you can see how all of it has a single mission and a single purpose. Ben & Jerry's is a good example of this. They sell ice cream, however, they do a lot of activism and they lose a lot of business because of it, but they also gain a lot of business because of it, okay? However, if you don't really care about creating that big unified brand, then it might just make more sense to keep these two businesses separate as they are distinct audiences, distinct brands. The second thing, do the personalities of these two sides of the business match or do they clash? Like, can they vibe together or no? This is gonna be a really important factor in deciding whether to keep it together or not, because branding in a single unified way, two personalities that clash completely, is exhausting and really hard to do, and also very hard to do well. Like, a lot of people try it, but it's hard to do well. So if the brand personalities are way too different and they clash together, separate them. If you think they can match, then you can build a more layered business and brand, like I said, which is great. The third question is, how much time, energy, and or money do I have to invest in this? If you're a solopreneur, you're a single person, and you don't have the time to manage two of everything, keep it together for now. Or separate them, but focus on growing one part of the business and then focus on growing the other part of the business. And in that case, you could see if you can grow. So going back to this example of the laser engraving, she could focus on selling her designs that she's already created and have a link that says, hey, we also do custom orders. That way she wouldn't have to have two separate Instagrams, two separate websites, two separate everything right now. But as she's growing this, people are also learning about the custom order side of her business. And then when she has a bigger team, or when she has more time, more energy, more resources, she could focus on growing both of them separately. But the other option is, because I don't have the time, energy, or resources to do this separately, because it is double the work, it is double the thing, I'm going to keep them together and I'm going to find a creative way to make this a single unified brand. If you decide to separate the businesses, I would recommend making sure you have really distinct branding, different logos, different color schemes, different look and feel, different voice, which will help each customer really feel connected to the brand that they vibe with. I would recommend having a really clear marketing strategy it's very tempting to say, oh, I'll go and I'll create a social media template for quotes and I'll use that for both of the businesses and I'll just change the colors. But colors are not the only thing that call in a person, right? It's colors, it's shapes, it's fonts, it's the type of design on the post. It is the type of quote that you use. And while some quotes or questions or, content will match for both, the real thing that you have to do and what you really have to sit down and face is that you're going to have two really distinct marketing strategies that sometimes will overlap in some spaces, but for most of it, they're going to be completely separate. And the third thing is to have simple websites with really clear messaging. Make sure that the messaging is really clear on who we are, what we do, who this is for, because that will allow people to kind of self-select on which business they're looking for. And if you decide to keep the business as a single unified entity, these are the things that I would recommend. 1, having dedicated sections on your website, clear sections and pages for each side of the business so that people can go to where they need to go or where they want to go, and it's clear where they need to go, where they want to go. The second thing is using distinct designs on social media for separate content. So for example, if you're using Instagram, using the highlights and having one for the designs you do and one for custom orders. So again, people can kind of self-select. And the third thing is communicating your brand's unique personality. Find the common thread between the funny political side and the custom design side and let that personality shine by weaving it together. There are ways to show a professional quality and a playful vibe if you stay authentic and consistent with it. You have to be really consistent with the message that you're sending. Now, specifically for the business owner who asked me this question, I would recommend separating the businesses. Now, this is because I've seen the kinds of products that they do, and so I know where her question is coming from. Let's put it that way. So I would recommend separating the businesses. The custom design side should have its own website, and the political, funny, humorous side as well. But the other thing I would recommend is on the political, humorous side website of the designs that you already have, I would have a link to the custom design side of the business. Because what that's going to do is it's going to allow the corporate people to go only to your custom design business. And it's going to allow the playful, humorous people who appreciate this to then also see that you have an availability for custom design and jump over to that side if they want to or they need to. That's what I would do if I were you. Obviously, listen to this full video and make the decision based on the questions that you're supposed to ask, discuss it with your business partner, and all of that. Like any business decision, separating or keeping a business together has pros and cons. It really does depend on each individual business and each individual case, product, audience, etc. But asking yourself those 3 questions will help you get a clearer idea on where you should be. I'm really grateful that you stuck through to the end of this video. If it resonated with you, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. If there's any question that you have or something that you would like me to make a video on, please leave it in the comments. I make new videos every single Friday. And as always, stay weird, stay wild, and I'll see you in the next one.